This week on Dance of Joy, we talk about bullies with limited wardrobes, the golden years of iconic 80s films, and sing-songy senseis. All that and more as we watch Season 3, Episode 8 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Hello and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Sophia. I'm one of your hosts. I'm so happy to be here, and joining me today is my favoriteest co-host and my favoriteest brother. What's up, Imran?
Hi, Sophia. What's up? I just sent my audition tape in for the latest season of American Ninja Warrior. It's 13 minutes of me just yelling parkour and slamming into a concrete wall. I like my chances.
Well, all the best to you. Let us know how that works out for you. That is somewhat appropriate for what we're talking about today. We are talking about Perfect Strangers Season 3, Episode 8, titled The Karate Kids.
Oh, man. Big time reference title here for the show for the 80s, of course. Everybody knows a great 80s franchise, The Karate Kid, Ralph Macchio, Pat Morita.
Right. The first original Karate Kid came out in 1984, followed by sequels in 1986 and 1989, and then a number of others after that.
So it was huge in the 80s. The first movie is amazing. The second movie is okay. The third one, I don't know. And then there's one with Will Smith's kid. You could just ignore that one.
But at the time of the taping of this episode, there had been two, Karate Kid 1 and Karate Kid 2.
And heavily, this episode, as you'll see, heavily leans into Karate Kid references. But in the TV guide, Sophia, if you opened it up, you would have read the description that read, intimidated by a bully at a bar, the guys take up karate, which turns Larry into a lean, mean fighting machine. Can't wait. Sounds great.
Can't wait. This episode, like all others, it stars Bronson Pinchot and Mark-Lynn Baker. We also have the girls in this episode, Marianne and Jennifer, played by Rebecca Arthur and Melanie Wilson. And we have some special guests, Randy Kovitz, Bill Rusaki, Marcus Mukai. We'll talk about them a little bit later when we get there. This episode aired on November 11th, 1987.
Act 1 opens at a lovely 80s establishment restaurant / bar called Edwards.
Yeah, we know it's called Edwards because it says so right there on the screen. And it's happy hour, and it's full of 80s people in 80s
it's hustling
outfits.
and bustling with pastel colors and big hair. It's a great time capsule of the 80s right here. And
in the middle of this restaurant bar set, there is a buffet table, and we open with Balky, Larry, Jennifer, and Marianne are at the buffet table filling up their small plates with all this food. And here we have a quick opening joke. We find out that it's Balky's first happy hour, and he doesn't understand how restaurants can make money giving away free food like that. And Larry tells him the food is just an inducement. And then there's a beat, and Balky looks closely at the food in his plate. And he says, and it looks so real.
It's just an inducement.
What does he think an inducement means? Larry, that's a weird word, an inducement.
Inducement, yeah. Larry used some strange words sometimes.
Anyway, he explains to Balky, no, they're just giving away free food so that people will spend money on drinks. And Balky says, I get it. So people like you who only drink ice water make out like bandits. So there's an opening joke, but we also find out that Larry is cheap.
Yeah, not much of a drinker either. You don't really see Larry drinking booze ever.
We don't see anyone drinking booze.
And then the girls sometimes are like, let's get wine. And then the first time they were like, we don't drink.
We don't drink, right.
It's confusing.
Exactly.
Anyways, Balky and Larry return to their table, and Jennifer and Marianne follow, and Marianne's kind of stuck at the buffet plate because it's all free and she's got lots of food. She's got 2 plates of food. Jennifer's like, Marianne, you coming?
She's like, I guess I could come back.
And then on their way back, this big 80s bully type dude with a denim vest and rolled up sleeves stops Jennifer and starts to hit on her. He goes, hey, baby, my name's Chuck. You want to go home with a love machine? Oh, does this line work? What is this?
That was my first thought. I was like, is this realistic for the 80s? Is this how men picked up women at bars in the 80s?
It's
gross.
Gross and lazy. And at this point, Larry steps in and goes, I hate to pull the plug on you, Chuck. But the lady's already going home with someone. And Larry and Jennifer walk away, go back to the table, and Chuck follows them. And he goes, why would you go home with this guy? And then Chuck goes, oh, yeah, I forgot. It's shrimp night. Burn.
And Larry's got a quick snippy comeback, and he says, say, Chuck, do you have a blueprint for your brain? I'm building an idiot.
I'm building
and
an
Balky
idiot.
is like, cousin, you didn't tell me you were building an idiot. And Larry just looks at him and goes, it was going to be a surprise. And during this whole burn battle back and forth, this roast battle, I guess, Balky is excited the whole time, and he thinks it's some kind of happy hour game.
Yeah.
And between each line, between Chuck and Larry, Balky's analyzing the burns and assigning points. And I just thought that was a really weird bit of dialogue. I'm not sure why they did it. Maybe it was a tool to keep the sort of Chuck Larry exchange moving along, but otherwise it was
strange. Because he's
strange.
like, oh, love machine, pull the plug.
Yeah,
I see, cousin, your turn.
It was a weird bit of dialogue, but maybe there was a reason.
But I also love when he says, cousin, you tell me we're building an idiot. Again, I just love how Larry just doesn't bother to explain it. He comes up with, it's going to be a surprise.
So Chuck grabs Larry by his jacket and pulls him up to his feet from the table. And he goes, and he pulls him in close. He's like, I don't like your jokes, little man. And then he drags him all the way across the room to the other side, throws him up against the wall, then down the bar. And Balky's yelling at him the whole time, put cousin Larry down. And so Chuck pushes Larry over the bar and he falls behind the bar. Then he grabs Balky and he throws him over the bar too. And he turns to the room and he goes, I love shrimp night. And he walks away. The girls run to the bar all concerned, and then we see Balky and Larry sort of emerge, standing up from behind the bar, and they both look a little disheveled and a little embarrassed.
Major public humiliation at Edwards.
And that is the opening scene of this episode.
As we crossfade to the next scene, which is back at the apartment, Balky and Larry are on the couch talking about how humiliated they are. They were. And Larry says something I can relate to. Maybe you can too, listener. He says he's been a bully target his whole life. And he goes, it's always the same. The big guy takes advantage of and Balky starts to go little tiny, but Larry goes more average size guy. He doesn't want to completely, demean himself. But man, he said that and I thought about.
Wait, you got bullied?
My childhood a lot. I mean, look, I had vitiligo growing up. I didn't exactly look people forget. I didn't look like everybody else.
That's sad.
But he's right. It's always the same. And then Larry goes, and you know what really makes my blood boil?
And Balky says, Mexican food.
And then Larry goes, okay. He makes a face like, you're not wrong. Let me rephrase that. Do you know what really makes me angry is that there's nothing little guys like us can do about guys like Chuck.
Balky disagrees, and he says, what about David and Goliath?
Yeah.
What about Jack and the Beanstalk?
Good point.
What about the Captain and Tennille?
What?
To which Larry goes, what are you talking about?
What? It's so funny.
But also, what is he talking about? So let's break this down. The Captain and Tennille.
Well, David and Goliath, clearly biblical story of little guy takes down big guy.
Against big guy.
Jack and the Beanstalk. Children's nursery tale storybook about little guy takes down a giant.
Right.
Captain and Tennille, pop male and female duo who most famously sang "Love Will Keep Us Together."
Right, from the 70s. They were on the charts in the 70s. But I don't get the connection to the little guy, big guy story. I actually Googled. I was like, was there some conflict between Captain and Tennille? Did one of them get really big and the other one got bigger and took him down?
But nothing. What happened to Neil? Your ego got huge. No, I think he just got carried away with the metaphors and just came up with a random pairing that had nothing to do.
So Larry's "What Are You Talking About" really is a genuine.
Yes, it's pretty accurate.
Okay.
But Balky tells Larry he has an idea and he stands up and he makes a position I am very familiar with from being a kid. He raises his arms up and holds up one leg bent at the knee. And he goes, now, what am I? And Larry goes, a crazy man standing on one foot? Balky goes, no, I'm the Karate Kid. And Larry goes, I'm Ferris Bueller.
So here, this is brilliant. Like we mentioned last time that there is not often these timely references, but here we have one again. In 1987, there would have been 2 Karate Kids already and one Ferris Bueller's Day Off, a very popular movie from 1986.
And of course, Balky is showing the famous crane kick from the movie that's used at the end of the movie that's used on the poster. Listen, we'll talk about this at the end of the show, but honestly, like many kids, this movie got me hooked into karate also. Like there was a sweeping trend across the country.
Did you ever do karate? I did taekwondo.
Remember, I took taekwondo for a hot second.
I took it for a while. I was like up to blue belt or something.
I was like a really crappy kid with short attention span. So like after we didn't punch people a lot, I was like, this is dumb. I don't want to do this anymore. So like I lasted
not too
a
late.
month or
you
two.
You can still do it now.
I know, but ever since then, and the fascination is still there. People love the Karate Kid, and 1986 is one of those years that has a wide variety of awesome 80s movies.
Iconic 80s films.
We, on our other podcast, we did this whole series on 1999, which legit has over a dozen amazing movies that came out that year. 1999 has amazing movies. 1986, 84, similar years, amazing movies that came out in one year.
What year was Breakfast Club?
That was, I think, 86 or 89.
Yeah,
that might have been
that time, yeah.
That might have been 89.
Iconic 80s films. Okay, so Balky...
85, sorry. Breakfast
85.
Club 85.
All right, around then.
But that 84, 85, 86, there were some great movies coming out all the time.
So Balky's doing the crane pose. He's like, I'm the Karate Kid. And he suggests that the two of them are going to learn karate. And Larry's like, it takes years to learn karate. And Balky says, well, cousin, I've got a bulletin for you. I saw that movie. I went back for popcorn. And when I got back, that kid was kicking everything he could get his feet on.
It's true. He learned very quickly. Wax on, wax off, Daniel-san.
So Larry's being Larry, pouty. He's like, I don't know. Larry Appleton, Fists of Fury. It just doesn't sound right. And then Balky says, now, cousin, your fist can be just as furry as the next guy.
That's a great line.
Fury into furry.
Hairy fist. But you know what? Here's another reference, and I'm wrong. The country's obsession with martial arts starts with this reference. Bruce Lee, martial arts film Fists of Fury. But all throughout the 70s, Game of Death, Fists of Fury.
First one was
Enter the
1972,
Dragon.
then a series of sequels.
So Bruce Lee starts it, and then like Ralph Macchio makes 12-year-old kids.
Well, I think Karate Kid made it like American,
yes,
right? Like, it gave it this like all-American story.
But Bruce Lee has to be credited for a lot. The man was an amazing talent, like super amazing talent. And then Balky, Balky's still trying to convince him. Balky goes, this is America. We're the little tiny, and then he stops, more average size guy can do whatever they set their mind to. He says, think of it, cousin. We could walk down our streets with our heads held high, not afraid of the chucks of the world. And then Larry just stops and thinks and goes, no, it's impossible. And then Balky
says it twice, in
Balky
fact,
goes, what did you say? I said, no, it's impossible.
So whiny. And then
whiny.
Balky,
And
then we have
Midwestern.
this beautiful, beautiful scene that comes right here. Balky looks at Larry. They're sitting on the couch, and he starts singing, to dream the impossible dream. And of course, this is a song called The Impossible Dream from the 1965 musical Man of La Mancha, which is the story of about Don Quixote.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Balky starts singing all the lyrics, but in between each lyric he sings, Larry is still like narrating his poutiness, like, no, we could never take him. It's too hard. And Balky is singing. And then finally the song, there's this moment like where the song reaches Larry and he becomes inspired and he stands up and he starts singing. He takes over the singing, picks up right where Balky left off. And then he stands on the couch. He stands on the couch. Balky's standing next to him on the floor with his arm around Larry's waist. And Larry starts singing, and in between each of his lyrics, Balky shouts like these inspirational comments like, we never be afraid again. We'll take karate. And then they finish in this beautiful harmonized duet, the end of the song.
And Mark Lynn Baker hits this amazing high note on the harmony. They're such good singers. I love when they include the singing, and I love how between each line
and
in the
the
beginning,
little like dancing and choreography that goes along bouncing. Usually,
But how Larry gets hopeful between each line of the song. He's like, "We can't do this, but somebody has to stop him."
It's almost like a scene from a musical, right?
So
That's
great.
how they do it. Yeah,
The Impossible Dream, fantastic. The singing, just top-notch singing. So now we transition. This is a great episode because we see a lot of fun things. Next scene takes us to karate class.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of fun scenes in this episode.
This is an amazing episode. We will discuss. It's one of the classic great episodes. You see Balki and Larry in their white karate outfits, uniforms. I don't know what do you call those officially? I think.
Oh, they're called.
I think Rainey mentions it later.
It's in. I know it from.
Taekwondo.
Cobra Kai.
Oh, Cobra. A gi? Is a gi?
A gi. It's a gi.
That's the actual, So the instructor introduces himself. He's Sensei Pete Nakima. He welcomes them to his dojo in like a scruffy, like Japanese accent, which
may or may not be problematic in today's times.
Well, but look, at least give him props for hiring an Asian actor to play this role. And really, these are the only roles.
But it was kind of a joke in and of itself because later in the scene he drops the accent.
Right.
Yeah.
So Balki does this thing where he right away hugs him. And the Sensei Nakima asks them why they come to his karate class. And Balki's like, are you familiar with the concept of happy hour?
Happy hour.
And Larry stops him. He goes, I'm with the Chicago Chronicle, and I'm doing a piece on self-defense in the urban male ego for our Sunday magazine section. I want to explore how civilized man deals with his own primitive instincts. Pete Nakima just looks at him, drops the accent, and goes, you got beat up, huh? And Larry just goes, yes. And he's like, I can help you.
So he says he can help them, and then he gets the class started, and all the other students who are adults, like, come and sit around the edges of the mats. And he calls up Goldstein. Goldstein is to do a demonstration. Goldstein is a skinny guy with glasses and a green belt. And who's going to do the demonstration with Goldstein? Well, Bart Takuma's son, of course. And so Balki stands up and goes in the mat. The sensei tells Balki to attack Goldstein from the back. And Balki just goes, why? I'm not even mad at him. And Sensei's like, attack him! And so Balki puts his arm around Goldstein's neck from the back, and then Goldstein just like does a karate yell and flips him over onto the map.
And he's really
I
flipping
think he's
him.
doing all his own stunts in this.
Bronson Pinchot is taking tumbles and getting flipped. It's amazing.
And then he flips him over the mat, and then the sensei goes, Bartakuma's son. He's still sitting on the ground, like stunned from this flip. And the sensei goes, Bartakuma's-san, now attack him from the front. And Balki goes, I don't think so.
It's a great I don't think so. I love some of the lines here, though, because he gets up and he asks the sensei, he's like, is he going to do that again? And the sensei goes, no, this time he's going to do something different.
Yeah,
he has these great sing-songy lines. At the beginning, he's like, please welcome our new students. And then he's like, who wants to volunteer? How about one of our new students? It's so good.
I don't know why. I don't know if that's like going to be considered problematic or not, but it's
so funny. I just love it. He's going to do something different.
So Balki stands up and he's like, he approaches Goldstein from the front, and then this time they're like heading the other direction. So Goldstein flips him again a different way, and he rolls back the other way toward where Larry is sitting on the left side of the screen. And Larry at this point is watching all this. Suddenly he's so excited. He's like, Balki, this karate stuff is great. Before you know it, we're going to be two of the toughest guys in Chicago. And Balki's like, well, I'm already feeling kind of tough. And Larry's like, good, because here comes Goldstein. And then Balki and Larry like grab each other and cower in a corner as Goldstein like does some karate yells and approaches them.
Balki he bounced right in front of Larry perfectly on that last toss. Yeah. Like that was a legit bounce.
How much they practice that.
Somebody must have got hurt at some point. He's taken these beats, and it's amazing.
And that's the end of Act 1.
End of Act 1. Listener, if you want to join the conversation and contribute observations to our recaps and our discussion, join our Facebook group. Search for Dance of Joy Podcast Group, and it's where I post a thread every week of the episode we're recording. And you can leave your questions, concerns, comments, observations and we'll shout them out at the end of the show. It's a lot of fun. It's a two-way street here. Over there, comes over here, goes over there.
All right. Act 2 starts with an exterior shot of the apartment. And this is a rare thing we don't see a lot. There's a caption over the exterior shot that says 3 weeks later.
3 weeks of training later.
And then when we see the inside of the apartment, the rest of this scene, in fact, this whole act basically
it's a tiny act 2.
It's a tiny act 2. And the whole thing is perhaps one of the most memorable physical comedy scenes of this whole show of all 8 seasons.
I mean, there is a still of this that I distinctly remember from when I was a kid that when every time it comes up, I'm like, that's the funniest thing ever.
So in a nutshell, it's Balki and Larry. We'll walk through it a little bit in a minute, but in a nutshell, it's been 3 weeks of karate classes, and this whole act is one scene in the apartment, and it's Balki and Larry
testing each other.
Sneak attacking each other to practice their karate. And so this whole scene and act is them doing karate yells and karate moves among each other all around the apartment, and then some funny moments.
The hilarious reveal right at the beginning is when Larry comes in with a bag of groceries, and he's all like hyper focused, and he's got his arm up, and the door closes, and he reacts, and then he's calling out Balki, and he's like creeping over
the apartment
as he passes behind the couch, the alcove that's there. This is the image that I have burned in my head is Balki wearing an all black ninja suit in a crouch in like a lotus position, trying to blend into the background. And it's the funniest thing. Oh my God. This is where it all starts.
Larry crosses in front of him, puts down the grocery bag on the table, and we see Balki very quietly ninja like jump down to the floor, and Larry hears something and like pauses and freezes. And then they get into this whole like, hi, and they're like yelling all over the apartment. Larry is blocking Balki's punches and karate chops with like baguettes from the grocery bag. And like at one point he pulls out, 2 sausages linked together and does nunchuck moves with them. And then he like does it too much and loses the nunchuck into the lamp or something. The sausage nunchuck.
A couple other highlights I loved was when they run over to the door and there's like a rhythmic exchange where Balki hits the door and Larry ducks and he hits his hand and it's like, hi, ow, hi, hey, and they run. And then there's a great moment where they're just sparring and Balki's making the hoi, hoi, and then he starts choking. And they stop and Larry pats him on the back. He's like, "Oh, you okay, buddy?"
And then there's another funny moment where they're like sparring with each other and their arms are like tangled among each other.
This
and
is
the
like
phone
the end
rings.
of it.
They're by the phone. The phone rings. Larry's like, "I'll get that." and he's still like tangled with Balki.
Well, he's about to toss Balki. He's about to throw Balki, and they stop right before because the phone rings.
And he answers the phone, and it's Mrs. Schlegelmilch, who, by the way, did she move apartments with them?
Or can she hear them from the other apartment? What's going on here?
She lived in the other building, but we don't ever know that if it's a new building or
Reality was altered. This is all the same building.
So it's Mrs. Schlegelmilch who's calling to find out about the noise. He tells her they're just moving furniture, and sure, we'll try to keep it down. Thank you. And he hangs up, and then he flips Balki over the couch. And then he takes the groceries.
Wipes his hands, and it's the end of the training. And do yourself a favor, listener. Just go watch this scene right now on Hulu.
Yeah, it's really hard to describe
amazing.
On a podcast.
But they're all done, and Balki's breathing pretty hard, actually. Like, they were doing some work, and he sits down on the couch, and he's like, pretty good workout.
Huh?
Oh. And Larry goes, yes, these sneak attacks have been honing my reflexes.
Sharpening. No,
he says sharpening my reflexes. And Balki's like, yeah, you could cut your toenails on my senses too.
Which is such a funny line. If you really think about it, it's one of these lines which are like, how did they even think to write that?
So you
like,
take your senses.
He talks about
and
some sharp reflexes, and they take that to something like it's so sharp you can cut your toenails. I just thought that was so funny and out of nowhere. Like, who even thinks of writing that? Anyway, so Balki gets up and does some more karate moves while he's talking, and he says, "Cousin, now that we're lean cuisine fighting machines,"
great reference.
That's funny. Instead of lean mean fighting machines, I guess in the 80s was like when
TV dinners
lean
were huge.
Cuisine diet foods were coming out. And he says, I hope we don't have to use karate on anyone because as our sensei said, the most powerful weapon is the voice of love. Aw. Larry's like, yeah, it's not like I'm looking for trouble. And then he looks out the kitchen window. He gets angry. He opens the window and he goes, Hey, you, get out of my car. Or get away from my car. Now get out of here. Like really mean, like we've never seen that before. And Balky like looks over his shoulder out the window and he says, Cousin, I think that lady was just waiting for the bus.
Oh, this is getting to his head a little bit.
Like the whole act 2 is just this one scene.
We should mention this whole bit is either it's a lift, it's a rip copy or an homage, a tribute to the
Let's call it a tribute.
It's a tribute to the great Peter Sellers in the Pink Panther movies where Peter Sellers, the detective Clouseau, would ask his assistant to launch sneak attacks to keep him on his toes. And every movie had like a different gag. It was always a great scene.
Yes.
And Inspector Clouseau is hilarious. It was a Pink Panther. It's definitely
the original
classic.
Pink Panther movies. There have been some remakes of those as
So,
well.
yeah, this is very Pink Panther-esque, and it was just lovely.
And another interesting tie-in is that the actor who's playing Sensei Pete Nakima in this episode, Bill Ryusaki, did stunts for the Karate Kid 2 movie and the movie The Son of the Pink Panther.
Wow.
So there's like a
full circle.
double tie-in with that guy.
You got beat up, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great. Different. Okay, that's the end of a short Act 2. Act 3, listener, will Larry be able to control himself? You're going to find out in a second. But first, there is a way to support the show and give back to the nostalgia, the entertainment we're trying to give you every week. Visit our website, danceofjoypod.com/support. We have a virtual tip jar. You can buy us a coffee, a virtual coffee. It's called Buy Me a Coffee. And it helps support the show and keep it going.
And it keeps us awake while we do these recordings, even virtually.
I had to make some coffee before this one because
Me
it is
too.
yes, so.
Real coffee.
Yes, real coffee, virtual
we like
coffee.
all kinds of coffee, real coffee and virtual coffee.
Support the show. Act 3, sister.
Act 3, we're back at Edwards.
Oh no, what are we doing
Restaurant
back
bar.
at Edwards? Oh boy.
The guys and the girls are back at Edwards. Funny thing, both of these scenes at Edwards start with external shots, and it's the same external shot. So you see the same people walking.
Well, it's they have it's the regulars of Edwards. They're
they're just back. Yeah.
Very punctual. Yes.
They're all back at Edwards, the girls and the guys, and they're having a little chit chat, and they're all like surprised that the other one wants to be back at Edwards after getting beat up. And Belka's like, I thought it was your idea. And Marianne's like, oh, I'm not wild about this place. The lighting makes my skin look sallow. And then they all kind of like figure it out, and they realize that Larry lied to all of them and told them each other wanted to come back. And when Balky realizes this, he looks at Larry and he says, I can see clearly now the rain is gone.
Great song.
Right. From the 70s.
Johnny Nash, 1972.
1972. Larry admits that he was the one who wanted to come back. And says, and he tells them, relax, I'm picking up the check. I'm picking up the check.
Oh, Freudian slip there.
Balky hears that, and he realizes that Larry has come back to pick a fight with Chuck, and he accuses Larry of having less than pure motives.
Well, Larry says that he wants to come back as a matter of principle. He goes, we should have the freedom to eat where we want without having to worry about bar slime like Chuck. At which point Jennifer goes, Larry, better lower your voice because the bar slime just slid in as Chuck, wearing the exact same clothes. Doesn't he have
same denim vest?
Does he not have another outfit?
Same rolled up shirt.
Why doesn't Larry call him out on where? What are you, poor Chuck? You can't afford clothes.
It's the same outfit.
Anyways, Chuck enters and he's wearing the same, and you see him bump into the guy at the door, like the brutish thug that he is. And Larry sees Chuck and then suddenly picks up his glass of water and nervously drinks all the water real quick and goes, oh, would you look at that? I'm out of water. I better go to the bar and get a refill. This is not going to go well.
And Balky tries to stop him. He knows it's not going to go well. And he reminds him that the sensei said, a victory born of revenge will satisfy only the shallowest souls. And Larry, with his like determined, focused eyes, just looks at him. He goes, I've got no problem with that.
He's already okay with it.
And he insists that he's not there looking for trouble. Then he turns back to the bar with, again, this like determined, focused Larry eyes. And Balky tries to tell him to sit down. And Larry's like, look, I'm out of water and I'm thirsty.
Balky.
And I'll go out of my way to avoid a fight. Okay. And so Balky is kind of satisfied. He sits down. And then Larry turns to the bar, walks straight to the bar and straight into Chuck on purpose, like behind him.
Yes, he just runs right into him.
And then Larry goes, watch it, buddy, after he walks into Chuck. Chuck turns around and like looks down. He's like significantly bigger than Larry. It turns out he doesn't remember Larry. And Larry goes, a few weeks ago, you hit on the woman I was in here with. When I said something about it, you dragged me down this bar, then you beat up my cousin. Now do you remember me? And Chuck's just like, you're going to have to be a little more specific.
Oh my God, this is Chuck's hobby.
He does
this
this
is just
all
what he
the
does. He
time,
goes around
yeah.
doing this. And Larry goes, I demand an apology. And Chuck is like, I don't apologize to nobody. And Larry goes, listen, jerk, I think you and me should step outside. And Chuck's like, you don't want to do that. You're going to get hurt. And Larry now just keeps pushing it. Goes, what's the matter? You chicken?
Chicken Chuck.
And he steps in the middle of the room and goes, hey, everybody, Chuck here is chicken. And then he goes, it's so funny. And Chuck's like, nobody calls me chicken. And Larry goes, oh, is that right? My fine feathered friend. As he does his best Daffy Duck.
Here.
Oh my God, it's so funny. He is just, Larry, this is not smart.
Fine feathered friends and chicken Chuck. These are like easy tools of funny, of laughs in comedy. Chuck is now getting angry, and Balky steps in between Larry and Chuck, tries to de-escalate the situation. He says, now, Chuck, you know where I come from? That's a compliment. The chicken is a symbol of bravery and honor. And as a matter of fact, the chicken happens to be the Meposian national bird.
Did we know that? We didn't know that. That's new news.
That's new. And that's the kind of thing that I felt would be of interest to a man of your integrity. And then Chuck lifts Balky and places him on the bar. He's like, and obvious physical strength.
And then we get some action, some fight choreography as Chuck rushes Larry, and Larry blocks two of his punches, grabs his hand, and flips him on the floor, just like Goldstein did to Balky. And Chuck's down, and Larry is super proud of himself, and he's like, everybody, everything's under control. Go back to your libations. I love that he used the word libations. It's great. He's like, show's over, and while he's gloating, you see Chuck get up from behind him, and Balky's going, cousin Larry, cousin. And Larry's like, Balky, please, I'm trying to have a moment here. Do you mind? Just then, Chuck grabs Larry and again throws him to the back of the room, and again...
first drags him to the other side of the room,
and he
throws him against the wall.
Slid down the bar a second time.
Exactly the same choreography, yeah.
But this time, Chuck doesn't throw him over. He just grabs him and starts choking
Strangling him.
As,
and Balky's yelling.
Larry yells for help. And we don't see the end of the fight here.
No.
Because it's just chaos.
What we see is a cut to the next scene, which is the guys and the girls returning to the apartment, and Larry is very embarrassed. Jennifer asks if he's all right. Larry says he's fine, and he just tells the girls, in karate, we learn how to take a fall. And Marianne's like, and you do it very well. And they leave, and then there's this like funny little exchange. Balky's trying to cheer Larry up, but Larry is wallowing in his embarrassment and his defeat. He said, Balky, it's not just that I got beaten up. And Balky goes, again. And Larry says, it's not just that I was humiliated. And Balky says, again. And Larry says, in front of Jennifer. And Balky says, again. And Larry's like, are you helping? What is
is this helping? What are you doing here?
And so Larry's thing is that his little summary is that he's upset because he's gone from peaceful little Larry Appleton to a guy who picks fights in bars.
He became a bully.
And he said, at least, yes. Well, you know what they say. Bullies, people who get bullied turn into bullies, or whatever the phrase is. Hurt people is the thing. And he's like, at least when I was getting beaten up, I was a nice person. And
hurt people. I've never heard that. Wow.
Really?
Wow. And I like the use of the word hurt in the different.
Hurt people. Like,
the steep. I like it.
If there's like a big bully, chances are.
Yeah, he has some
they're going
trauma.
through something.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyway, But Larry says, at least when I was getting beaten up, I was a nice person. And Balky assures Larry that he's still a nice person and that's why he's upset. And he says to Larry, you've learned an important lesson tonight. And Larry says, I learned I should never have taken karate to begin with. And Balky says, no. And Larry's like, no. And Balky goes, what did I just say? And then we have the lesson time music.
What's the right lesson here? That's clearly the wrong lesson.
The right lesson is this is Balky telling Larry the lesson. It's very distinct. It's very concise. He says, now, cousin, there's nothing wrong with taking karate. It's fun. It's good exercise. We get to wear snazzy outfits and go barefoot.
Yay.
But you're doing what you always do.
Yes.
You take a good thing and you pound it into the ground.
Yeah.
Now, why can't you just take karate and learn self-defense and be a nice person? So that's kind of the lesson. It's more like a question, hypothetical question, but that's what I took as the lesson. Like Larry just ruins everything.
That's the whole series right here in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Also,
so Larry, kind of has a turn of heart. He admits that he does enjoy the classes, and then Balky is like, yeah, and the sensei said you were a natural, and which cheers up Larry a little bit, and so he stands up and he starts doing some karate moves. And he's like, he probably said that because I move so well. And then Balky looks at Larry and says, I think he said it because your legs are so short. And then in the final exchange, Larry's like standing up, he's feeling good again. He's doing little karate moves and karate noises. And he's like taunting Balky. He's like, come on, punch me. And Balky's like, no, I'm not. And Larry keeps egging him on. He's like slapping him in the face. And Balky finally punches Larry in the gut, which stuns him completely and silences him. And then the last line is just, Balky, I'm going to pass out now. And roll credits.
it looked like he punched him in the sternum, like lower sternum, not even.
So whatever wins you.
Just an awkward place to get hit.
It was like an undercut and his arms were up.
He was not expecting it. Before we get into our thoughts, listener, grab yourself some fun summertime Dance of Joy swag. Visit our shop, TeePublic shop. It's danceofjoypod.com/shop. And, it's people are going out. There's people everywhere. It's kind of crazy. We get yourself a nice, comfortable tank top. We got travel mugs with the logo. We got tote bags so you can put all your things, carry your things around in a big Dance of Joy logo bag.
Oh, I want a tote bag.
Yeah, get a tote bag. danceofjoypod.com/shop. You can get your very own. And if you get something, send a picture of you and your tote bag.
I lost one of my face masks. It's kind of a symbolic sign of COVID being over. Just kidding. Wear your masks. New one.
Yeah.
Yes, I have another one.
I lost mine that I liked that my wife made. It's a Pac-Man one, but then I found it again. It was in the car.
I lost one of my two dance. We have two different Dance of Joy masks you can get. They're both great. I have lost one of them.
We'll have to get you another one.
Another one.
This episode is fantastic. This is almost one where if someone's like, what's Perfect Strangers about? You're like, go watch this episode. It has singing. It has amazing physical comedy. It's got just classic imagery. And I do like the whole thing from Taekwondo. I remember you learn martial arts so that you have the confidence not to use the martial arts, which is kind of the lesson here a little bit.
Yes.
But fantastic, great callbacks. This is just a
there's one
episode.
callback we didn't mention. So we mentioned Mrs. Schlegel-Milch. We mentioned some other stuff. When Larry is unpacking groceries in the kitchen, we see a box of Raisin Poofs.
Yes, Raisin Poofs.
So that is some continuity from a previous episode.
So this is where the season, these episodes are starting. We're going to get some really, really funny, classic, just perfect episodes.
Are coming up. Get excited.
They start to click. There is a blink and you'll miss it Dimitri appearance. Did you catch this? I had to rewind it a couple times.
I had to rewind it. It's very brief, and also Dimitri's wearing an all black ninja outfit, so
which is great.
It's kind of hard to see
because he's in the background on the counter in the one scene where Balky gets flipped over in the ninja outfit.
Couch,
and you see Dimitri in a little ninja outfit, which is so great.
Cute,
I love that.
Cute.
But it's so fast. It's so fast. Yeah.
Okay, we have some great Balkyisms. I don't understand how one mean person can ruin everyone's happy hours. David and Goliath, Jack and the Beanstalk, Captain and Tennille. This weird line.
Captain and Tennille were the butt of a lot of jokes too. I feel around that time. I don't know
why.
I don't know why. I think they just fell out of fashion and they got outdated. The style of music, but I remember they were always the butt of jokes. And then you have now cousin. Your fists can be just as furry as the next guy.
Furry fists. I definitely have some furry fists sometimes. You could cut your toenails on my senses. And now we are lean cuisine fighting machines.
Don't be ridiculous was not said.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
Good thing we say it on our show.
But he did have a and then a hilarious, I don't think so. Goldstein.
Goldstein. Okay, now we're at the segment of our show that we call Perfect Strangers Today, in which we talk about if this episode were to happen today, how would things play out differently?
You know,
what are your thoughts, Imran?
The concepts overall are still valid. Toxic masculinity is still an issue, and people's
but I like to think like dudes won't say gross things like "How'd you like to go home with a love machine?"
Yeah, but the lines these days I guess are different, but they're still just as like obvious and sleazy. But still, if you get into that position where you're like, I need to learn how to defend myself. Karate, like I said, still huge, but a contact sport that wasn't around then that is hugely popular now, and I know a lot of dudes train in it, is your MMA, your mixed martial arts.
I also feel like Krav Maga is very popular now.
Krav Maga?
Krav Maga is the Israeli army self-defense.
Yeah.
And it's like very popular in America. Lately.
Jiu-jitsu's huge with a lot of MMA guys. You know, they combine it. But like now, kids they don't want to learn just karate. They want to learn MMA. However, another thing that ties into Perfect Strangers today and the theme of Karate Kids here is a perfect example of a TV show that does a reboot of a classic 80s property perfectly. And I'm talking about Cobra Kai on Netflix, listener. If you have not watched it, you need to go and watch it right now. It picks up with Ralph Macchio, Johnny Lawrence, and Daniel LaRusso 30 years later. And it's amazing. It's really campy. It's silly, but it's well written. It's heartfelt.
I don't think it's campy at all. I think it's really well done.
Some of it is like it's a little goofy humor, but it fits in the universe of. But this is an example of how they take the original, like the tournament and the original mythology seriously. And this is the world. It is so good. So I kept thinking about Cobra Kai.
Yeah. Also, I think like today, if you were involved in like a bar fight with a bully and like a toxic macho guy, your best like defense and revenge would like that fight would get live streamed and be all over the internet, and then you wouldn't even have to like fight back. Everyone would just be against that guy. I don't know.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Why, bruh? Why are you so mad, bruh?"
Yeah,
well, everyone is just on. Yeah, they're just like calm down. But
like, were there no bouncers in the 80s or like?
Oh yeah, a bouncer would come.
Bar security.
There's a lot more security now. There's probably a lot more now. And also, I thought about how these guys have been beat up and picked up and spun around a bunch of times.
Yeah,
it was like this is the third time before they're like, okay, we got to do something now.
Yeah.
And then I'm curious, do they actually in universe? Do they still take karate? Like you would think, season 7, they're like black belts.
Yeah, did they keep? I mean, they are like 25-year-olds, so maybe they dropped it after a while.
No, they were like me. They tried things for 3 months. They're like, I'm bored. What's the next thing? Here's something that's not boring. It's our new segment, Balky Duds.
Yay, let's hear it.
Our friend Rainey, who runs the Instagram account Balky Duds about the clothes Balky wears, sends in a weekly report when there's a fascinating clothing, and this one has fascinating clothing. Let's check in.
Hello, Imran and Sophia. Hello, Dance of Joy listeners. This is Rainey from Balky Duds. And this week, we are talking about, as you may know by now, Perfect Strangers Season 3, Episode 8, The Karate Kids. I love this episode. This was one of my favorite episodes of season 3. It's just fun. It's got the physical comedy. It's got the super goofiness. I mean, it's like quintessential Perfect Strangers. How can you go wrong? And in this episode, we have a couple of well-known vests that we have seen other times, and we have some fun stuff. We start off with opening sequence. It is the vest that we see in the opening sequence. It's kind of like lightish, bluish gray with some vertical stripes. It's got the yellow and red kind of diamonds around the middle. It's fun. Then we, of course, have Balki and Larry in their karate garb, which I believe is called a gi. So
she knew what
I
it
guess
was
two
called.
of them are gis then. If someone knows that better than I do, please correct
she's
me.
right.
I
You're
could
right.
be wrong. But, oh God, the best thing in this episode, it's so good. The scene where Larry goes back into the apartment and Balki is hiding. The only time I remember laughing harder than this, watching Perfect Strangers, was the episode in, God, it must have been season 1, where Balki's learning how to drive sitting on the coffee table and he reaches across Larry's lap to grab his invisible sunglasses. I don't know why, that just stands out.
Remember that? That was great.
Yeah.
I also love where he's like, why haven't you started the car? Balki's like, you haven't given me the keys?
But this ninja outfit is the funniest thing ever. And even though Bronson Pinchot is like, I think he's like 5'10". One thing said he's 5'9", one said 5'10". He looks like he's 6'3" somehow, the way he's wearing this outfit. He looks super tall and skinny, so he's just got that kind of like particularly funny, lanky look and movements going on. And I'm calling this outfit Night Fright. I don't think we ever see it again, but God, I wish we did. And then finally, this episode wraps up with Trogdor, the vest with all the red sort of dragon
Trogdor
tentacles all over the front. Super fun. I love it. Oh my goodness, they're ninjas. And that's what I've got for you this week. So I hope you enjoyed it. As always, you can find me on Instagram at BalkiDuds. Have a good one.
Thanks, Rainey.
Balki does look really long and lanky in the black.
Yeah.
It's the black, the black
black.
is slimming. You know what else would have been really popular around this time? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was like here in '87. I think the cartoon started, and it was big in comics and stuff. So I don't know if that was also part of it. But Balki as a ninja, the best. The best. You can't.
The best.
You can't do better than that. And let's move on to our next fun new segment, the Dimitri Sheep
Instagram.
Get out of the city!
For this episode, Dimitri Sheep Instagram, which is simply at Dimitri Sheep together.
DIMITRI Sheep.
You want to describe this post?
Dimitri Sheep has another brilliant, very appropriate post. It is a bookshelf with a top row of books and a bottom row of books. And in the middle row is Dimitri Sheep in a ninja mask. And it's just perfect.
Yeah, he's got like a domino mask. And then you see a sheet with the XOXO, which is, we saw that on the typewriter in the other one. And I'm wondering if these books are just this person's collection or do they mean anything? There's a bunch of Nabokov and like serious.
I think it's just the collection.
So,
I've read a lot of these books, actually.
So you have you got Walden, you got, by looking at these
Atlas
books,
Shrugged,
by Ayn Rand,
Middlesex.
what can you tell me about this person you can tell a lot by their collection of books. This is, to me, a well-read person.
Into good literature.
Yeah. John Irving, I mean, they're smart, they're well-read.
Yeah,
This is
smart, well-read. I
impressive.
mean, it is a brilliant, Jeffrey Eugenides in there, too.
We're just trying to figure out who this is, listener. That's why I'm poking at clues, because we don't know, and it's still a wonderful Instagram account.
I kind of like not knowing. I like the mystery of it,
I
but
like
we love
the
what you're
mystery.
doing, Dimitri Sheep, whoever you are. We love what you're doing. Your posts are so clever and so amazing. Please keep up the good work, and everyone should definitely head over to Dimitri Sheep on Instagram and follow this account.
All right, let's wrap up with some shout outs from our listeners. These comments all kind of in the same vein that this is a fantastic episode.
Yeah, this is like everyone's unanimously in love with this episode. So our listener, cousin Pam Hitchcock, says, I love this episode. The physical comedy's off the charts.
Cousin Evelyn says the ninja scene in the living room, full stop. What more is there to say? This is pure genius. By the way, it's a recreation of the scenes from the Pink Panther, but 100 times better. Truly, she says this is in my top 5 Perfect Strangers episodes of all time. Seriously, excellent work. And I will say right now, Cousin Evelyn, I'll agree if I had to make a top 5, this episode so far from what we've watched is in there. And it may be at the top right now, but I'm logging this now, sister, in my head as we go. Yes. But this one definitely, this is a top 5 episode, easily.
Yes. And then we also have some words from Cousin John, who says, this is another episode where Perfect Strangers perfectly executes a sitcom trope. The only downside is that the focus of the physical comedy, which is top notch, means that Balki's cultural misunderstandings are fewer than most episodes. I don't know if I agree with that. There was some fun lines about
inducement,
happy hour, inducement.
It looks so real.
Lean cuisine, sharp sense, cut your toes with my senses.
We found out the Maposian National Park.
Yeah, is a chicken. Yeah, so there. I think this episode, like you said earlier, Imran, like has so much. All of the stuff we love about this show.
Yep.
In this one episode, like the physical comedy, the cultural stuff, the wordplay, the alliteration.
The alliteration is great. It has it. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Everything is all. This has like a little sampling of all the stuff, all the comedy tools we love about this show.
And the character traits are there.
Singing.
Yeah. The singing is the best.
Cultural references.
So good.
This was such a great episode.
I can't wait to get to. There's another episode this season coming up soon that is probably always going to be my top episode. And
I know what it is.
And it's similar to this episode. It has a little bit of everything. And just the timing and the setup. So great stuff.
So that's our episode for today. Join us again next week when Balki gets involved in some shady business.
Uh-oh.
Dun, dun, dun.
There's some like Hill Street Blues undercover type stuff going on. It's great.
It's going to be a good one.
In the meantime, listener, visit our website, danceofjoypod.com. It has links to everything you need, how to subscribe, how to stay in touch, how to contact us, how to support the show. All our social networks are there. You can leave us a voice message and we will play it. There's a little microphone at the bottom in the corner. And you can always email us, danceofjoypod@gmail.com. And the most important thing, Sophia?
Press record.
I did that. Wait, did I? Oh, no, I did. Good. Thanks for reminding me. You should remind me at the beginning of the show.
That's the most important thing for us. But for you all listeners, the most important thing is to share this show with a friend. If you're enjoying this, even in the slightest, please tell a friend about Perfect Strangers, about Dance of Joy, and have them join us on this journey.
Thank you for listeing. And now we are so happy.
Now we are so happy. We do the dance of joy.
Hey, 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 hey.